First of all, thank you for joining everybody. Like I said, this is Bianca. We've known each other from Marvelly days. Back in Marvelly, we went to church together. We were on some interesting adventures
Yeah,
together.
feels like a whole different lifetime.
It was a lifetime ago. So listen, I'm not even gonna go there yet. But we've known each other for about 18 years, and we've both been on our own journeys. So I wanted y'all to hear a part of our journey and where we are and what we're doing. This might go a little bit longer than before because we've had like 55 minutes of trying to get on. But y'all bear with us. I so appreciate y'all being on. So tell me, what do you want to say about yourself? Like, what do you want the people in Facebook land to know about you?
Well, well, as you mentioned, we've known each other a very long time. So I'm originally from Jamaica, born and raised, living in Canada now. Um, I've been divorced. I've been I've been through it all. I feel like I've lived several lifetimes, but I'm definitely living my best life and flourishing in my 30s and having, I'd say, recovered from my divorce because it
Yes.
definitely took some time. And I'm just here now doing what I want to do career-wise, happily, very happily married, having an experience I never thought possible. So I am just truly grateful for the restoration and everything that has transpired in my life, really.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And so let's jump right in. Tell me about your first love.
First love. That's a very interesting question, just because I feel like up until like just before now, like before my new marriage, that like I had a lot of situationships and a lot of infatuation, a lot of, trauma bonding. I don't know if I ever truly was in love before now. But if I was to like pinpoint any relationship or any period of my life, I'd say it was actually a relationship that I had no business being in. As a
Well,
teenager with someone who was way too old for me. I'll say that. But I would say it was a relationship that was there for me at a time when I was at my lowest. And as wrong as it was, so says the law
the
everywhere.
law of the Lord and the
Um,
land.
in many ways, it was like this distraction from a lot of, uh, like painful situations that I was going through in my own life then. Just dealing with the abandonment of my father, just dealing with like abuse at home, just dealing with so much. And I feel like this man was just like the first person that outside of my mom, um, that made me feel loved. And it was, that fuzzy feeling inside that we all thought was love when we were, teenagers. And yeah, that was it. It was that fuzzy feeling. And when that fuzzy feeling wore out, like I was the one who ended things because I thought that meant we were no longer in love.
Right, right, right.
So I'd say, yeah, if I can call that love, then that's the closest I've come before now to what I would say was my first experience.
Okay, nice. But that wasn't the person you married, right?
No.
Okay, okay.
That was trauma bonding.
So you
Yeah, that was that.
you did mention that you are divorced. So you did get married at some point in time. So I don't know if you want to share anything about that marriage or how that marriage changed and how you got to divorce.
Um, I'd say that marriage was, as I said, you know, rooted in trauma because we were both from broken homes. And I think I didn't know what he was thinking, but I know what I was thinking, which was this was an opportunity to create our own home. I was so determined to not have what I saw being reflected in my own household that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go and make something better. And I think for him, that's what it was about as well. But I mean, things quickly changed in our relationship after we got married. And I'd say that there were, you know, like it became an abusive relationship. And I would say that before that, I did see signs like this was someone who I was scared of before we got married. So I have no idea how I ended up married to someone who I was,
Mhm.
you know, who I had moments where I literally felt like terrified of them. But you know, so we went into this marriage as two broken people
Yeah.
and thinking that we can make something whole and wonderful out of that. But the truth is that we were both still hurt and needed healing and needed restoration before we had any business being married to anybody. So it quickly became an abusive situation. And you know, like I've always owned my part in it. Like I kind of became that person who sometimes did some of the button pushing, you know, because I felt like I wasn't being heard.
Yeah.
And the only way to be heard was to raise my voice, you know, because when I was trying to get you to see how I was feeling by sharing my feelings, you know, like nothing, I wasn't getting any sort of support then.
Right.
So I had to keep raising my voice. And then I had to, you know, come close in your face. And then, as I said, that just led into, you know, a really abusive situation. Um, and, you know, when it got to near the end, it was a situation where the abuse was taking place in front of our son,
Oh,
who
wow.
was like 1 at the time. And I think for me, that was the wake up call. This is a situation that I need to get out of. Um, there was one day in particular when my son had just started to, you know, like say a few words, and um, my then husband was like hitting me, and like my son must have been like a year and a half or something like that. I don't remember how old he was exactly, but he like was saying, "Daddy, no, Daddy, stop,"
Yeah.
something along that lines. And I was like, "This kid is not even 2 yet.
Right.
This is not okay, and
Right.
this will not be my son's life.
Yeah.
Um, he will not live in an abusive household."
Yes.
And that was the the catalyst for me like just pulling the plug on that marriage. I didn't I pulled the plug, but then I didn't,
Yes.
because as a Christian I knew, you know, what the Bible said about divorce, and I felt like I needed to try everything before I gave up on this. So even though we were separated for 2 3 years before I even considered filing for divorce.
Right.
And then we were still married for another 2 3 years
Man.
before the divorce was granted. I think we only got divorced in like 2014, and we were
Wow.
we were separated from, like, my son was born in 2009, and we separated, I think, like, yeah, like in 2010, so, or
Wow.
2011. So it had been a while.
Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. Like you had to go through that. And you did say something very, very important. Like you were trying to escape a situation that you were in. So you both had your own issues coming into the marriage. And one of the things that I know in the Jamaican culture and like the Black culture in general, like we don't talk about stuff. We don't talk about where we're coming from. Oh, this happened in my household. And so I'm trying to do better. Let's work on doing better together. Like we're not vulnerable, we're not
Yeah.
open. And so, like I had said, like when it's in secret and it's shameful, you hide it and it creates more damage. And I think also for me, like that was my thing. I didn't get info, like we had known each other for a few years, and it wasn't like I know you. We knew each other in passing, but it wasn't like I got to know this person. I got to know his background. His I met his I met some of his family members, but you know that was dysfunction too because I saw the dysfunction there. But rather than heeding, like you said, we saw the red flags. We saw them, but rather than heeding and say, "Oh man, is this the right decision to make?" We were like head on into this space where it would take us a while to recover and move forward. So how long were you guys actually married?
Okay, so let me think about this for a second. I think I just gave y'all some wrong numbers too, because I'm like, was it that long? Was it like it's really all a blur? But as far as I know, as
As
far
far as
as I
I know.
married in August 2008,
Yes.
right? Our son was born in 2009, July. And I know we were, the day when I left, was like, my son was like a year and a half, almost two. So I guess we fully separated when in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
towards, yeah, about the end of 2010. And then it was like 2 years later that I was like, hey, what's going on? Can we have a conversation on what's going on with this marriage?
Right.
What's our plans, you know? And then, yeah, like when he pretty much said that, his exact words, if God himself told me to stay in this marriage, I would not.
Girl.
As
So
if,
I
as if it
I
was
got
the
that too. He said that to me too. He's like, you know,
God
whatever. He's a Christian or
himself.
whatever, trying to do the right thing. I'm not trying to go there.
I'm like, how are you gonna be? Listen. It was a privilege for you to be married to me. Like that's where I was
Yeah,
like, how
dude.
man tell me that. But you know what? I humbled myself because that I never wanted to be the one to just pull the plug.
Right.
I wanted to see if we were able to individually work on ourselves because during those 2 years that we were separated, I don't know what he was doing. The first year I was getting buck wild and rebelling against God. But the second year I went to therapy, okay? So I had like 1 year of like, I'm done with God and
Free
church,
rolling.
everything. And then the second year, that's when I was like, okay, Bianca, like what you're doing, the path you're going down, it's only going to lead to destruction and you need to get it together. And I went to therapy and all of that. So when I had that conversation with him, like, hey, what are we doing here? Like I was coming from a genuine place of I feel like I have done
Right.
my work.
Right.
What have you been doing the
Yeah.
last 2 years? And what is our plan? And
Mm-hmm.
when he said that, I felt this weight being lifted off of me as if I was now free
Yeah.
to just go and without the guilt and shame of, like, divorce and all of that.
Right.
Like for some reason, like after that, I was like, you know what? It's whatever.
Yeah.
Because this is clearly not the person for me. And I put in my papers. But those 2 years of waiting for that paperwork to come through was one, it was super duper stressful because it just seems like I could never catch a break from the court. And then the second part of it was just dealing with people's opinions. So like I remember someone told me, and they meant this in the best way possible, like you need to forgive yourself for your divorce because God forgives you. And I was like, I didn't do nothing.
Thank you,
You know, there was
God.
also things of like feeling like, did I do something wrong? Going back and forth and like all of that. But in 2014 we definitely just like like I had those paperwork, we were done, and I was just free, completely free. And there is nothing like it
Yeah.
of like having to be tied to someone who is just not the person for you, and then finally getting that freedom. So I was finally able to like take my life back, you know, which included migrating and starting a brand new career and, you know, becoming like a whole different person, really.
I love
So
it.
yeah.
So yeah, I am so happy that you did not stay stuck. So I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Like when we talk and when we say we're divorced and we feel good, that somehow we are not, honoring the covenant that God put in place, or we're trivializing stuff. But you said it, and I was there as well. We did our work, and we got to a place where we saw that something in us was not working right. We went to therapy, we did our work, and we went back to that person and say, hey, man, what are we doing? Are we going to keep trying? What are we doing? And they have chosen, no, nah, bro. This is not what, nah, bro. I don't want to be here anymore. And so I was saying it while you were trying to get on, like, they're actually doing us a favor. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that the first few years or a couple of years were not easy for you. Like, you had your moments where you doubted, were you making the right decision? Like, God says marriage is forever. So how is it I am breaking this or it seems like I am breaking this covenant? So I don't know. This is, this wasn't planned, but tell me about the struggle that you experienced those whatever months, years, whatever, of being in that place of just mourning for what was not anymore.
I was definitely in mourning. That's a great word that you use, because nobody gets married to get divorced. Nobody walks into a marriage thinking that this is going to end into
Yes.
divorce. They're
Yes,
all
divorce. Right.
out, you
No.
know. So even though at that time I wasn't aware of like, you know, the all the reasons why I was jumping into this marriage, I went into it with good intentions, not realizing
Right.
all the issues that I still had to work out. So when it ended, I was definitely mourning for it because I had high hope for us. Like I thought like we were gonna be that, you know, that power couple in ministry, because at a time like that's what I wanted to do with my
Yeah.
life. So I was like, we're gonna be, and you know, I used to go on these missions, you know, like
Yes.
trips a lot. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like, you know,
Yes.
like missionaries all across Jamaica. Like I had
Yes.
high hopes for us. So for me, it was shocking, the turn or marriage to, because I felt like as Christian as we were, and especially because we waited until marriage to have sex,
Look
I
at
felt like
God. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
I felt like I had done everything wrong to I'm sorry, I felt like I had done everything right to
Right.
deserve a good marriage, you know, if that makes sense.
You want me
So
to know,
it was really shocking.
girl?
It was very shocking. So when it ended, I immediately went to, you know, people at church, because I was always this person where, because a lot of my family members weren't saved, I never really valued their opinion, and I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a Christian, you can't tell me anything about anything.
Right.
So I went to people at church, and I remember someone who I had shared with about the abuse that was going on. And, you know, like they pretty much trivialized it. Like, you know, like, oh, he doesn't mean it. Oh, God will fix it. I got, he just needs to be delivered. Like I got all sorts of stuff that didn't feel practical. And it's not like I don't believe in God being able to deliver people, because of
Right.
course I do.
Right.
Not like I don't believe that people can make mistakes and, you know, like change. And it wasn't that. It was like there was nothing that felt like help,
Yeah.
like real help.
Yeah.
And because of that, and because of, the stairs that come now and the people talking and all of that, I just didn't feel like the church was a safe place for me
Yes, ma'am.
anymore. And it's not like anyone did anything intentional. I don't have any bad feelings towards anyone. Let me put that out there. But I just didn't feel supported
Right.
in my divorce. I
Yes.
felt like I had a scarlet letter on me and I felt like I needed to get out of there.
Yes.
So for me, like that's when I kind of stopped going to church. And then I'd always been a good girl. Like I'd always been the one who, like, I lived at church day
I
in,
can
day out.
testify. I can testify. Yeah,
It's like
that's true.
everything that was going on at church, I was always there. I was never that girl that was ever in a club, like ever. I never went to a party. I never drank alcohol. I never did anything. And for some reason, like all of those things, by the way, I didn't share earlier that I got married at 19. So I was super young too. I never done any of that. And so, like, in that year post divorce, I was like, I'm going to live it up. Went to my first club where I fell asleep. Clearly that wasn't for me. Fell asleep at 10 p.m. because I was also a single mom.
Wow.
Went to a couple of parties in short skirts,
Yeah.
drank a few beers, tried to, be a normal 20-year-old, and then it just got, like, I always ended up just feeling empty and emptier and sadder and sadder. So it just wasn't helping. But those were dark years. I also had this thing of just like bouncing from relationships to relationships. I don't know if I was trying to prove that I wasn't the one who was the bad, like I had this, like I wanted to prove you were the problem, not me. So anyone who was like, hey girl, hey, I was like, hey.
Hey. Thirsty.
Like little 3-month relationships, just trying to, like prove that all these people want me and I'm super fabulous and all of that. But that quickly got old.
Yeah.
Because as I said, there was still that emptiness, there was still that pain. But then there was also dealing with the fallout of my divorce. Because if I thought this dude was bad when we were married, he was even worse as a co-parent.
Oh, Jesus.
You know what I mean?
Stuff, girl. Talk the stuff.
Like,
jump on in.
It was like there was no support, there was no help. He actually used words like I used or baby to trap him. And I'm like, I am the one that's making the bread in this house. Like, you don't trap people who can't do, like, you trap people who
you don't trap somebody who don't have a job. Though.
You can't trap people. You know what I mean? Like, I am the one who is like earning like X amount, and you're like, you know what I mean? And it wasn't to make him feel small. It's trying to say that I'm good. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
You
about
trapped me in this marriage with this baby.
Yeah, so it was like, how do you trap your husband? But anyway, when we got pregnant. But anyway, I had to deal with that. I had to deal with threats. Ooh. And I remember him, like, because the only thing he could ever do to me was to try to put me down and to try to make me scared of him. And when I kind of said, you know what, we're done, I'm pushing you out because, one, this is my place that I'm paying rent for, because at this time I was the one that was paying everything. I was the one that was doing everything. And then he was like, do things like, he sent people to my house, like sent his brother to my house that he's come for his son's things. I'm like, what things? Everything inside here is stuff that I bought. So no, you will not. This is after he tried to, I won't use the word, I'm not going to use the word kidnap. What word am I looking for? He, to try to hurt me, we had a disagreement, and he went to the daycare and picked up my son and said I was never seeing him again. And then he's going to send his brother for Pampers and wife. And as scared as I was for my son, and as horrible as that situation was, you are not getting a change of clothes out of my house that I bought. No, you are not getting diapers. You are not getting wipes. Since you want to be a father now, go and be a father and get some Pampers and some wipes because you have no idea what these things cost.
Right.
So it was a horrible situation. It was financial hell as well because one, we all know what the system is like in Jamaica.
Yeah.
With getting child support.
Yeah.
And I had to wait so long for my court date, right? And when we did go to court, the court awarded me 10,000 Jamaican dollars a month, right?
Have you gotten
Which
it yet?
I've seen $5,000 out of that $10,000, I swear. So that's $50 Canadian that I've seen for my son, who is 12 years old now. He's going to be 13 since he was, what, 1? And he's going to be 13 right now, okay? Yeah. So it's a horrible situation. There was this other time, and I can spill my tea because I'm telling the truth. Like, I don't feel like I need to bottle things up and I need to hide things because I don't need to protect anyone, especially when I'm speaking my truth. There was a time when I was so desperate, even after I'd promised myself I wasn't going to ask him for money, that I asked him in front of his son. We were in my car and my son was in the back, and I said to him, his daycare fees are due. Yeah. And I have no money, and I'm months behind, and I need help. You haven't helped with anything else, you know. What can you do? And his exact words, what would you do if I was dead? And my exact words, oh, so that's where we're at. So from now on, I will treat you like you are dead. And that is exactly what I have done until this very day. Mm-hmm. And we're good. We had some struggles. Yeah. We had some struggles. There was some times where I didn't have Pampers. I was telling my friend the other day that I would hope that my son didn't pee. Mm-hmm. Or I would hope that he didn't poo, so I didn't have to change that diaper. Yep. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, there were those situations. Oh, yeah. But, you know, God brought me through all of that because I don't even think I could have, like, you know, I don't know how I survived all of that, but we survived and we are here and we are living and thriving, and I'm just restored and have no hard feelings either. You know, it's kind of like I still wish you so much. Like, I wish you all the best, and you know, more than anything else, I wish for you to, I don't know, have a relationship with your child because you're missing
Jesus. Find Jesus. Hope you find.
Yeah.
And man, I am so proud of you. Like, you have been doing the work, and you have been coming out, and you have gotten to a very, very nice place. Like, so many of the things you said resonated with me because I was there too. Like, I did the right things. I got premarital counseling, you know, no sex before marriage. We did the right steps. Like, we married Christian guys. We went the correct route. So there are no guarantees. I feel like there are no guarantees. If somebody wants to make a relationship work, both people are going to put the work in. Both people are going to do what it takes for them to get to a place, like you said, that power couple. And that's what I had in mind. Like, oh my gosh, I'm married. I'm married now. I'm married. And, you know, so much prestige. Yes, I'm married. Of course, I'm Mrs. Yes. And we're going to go these places. We're going to do these things. And, you know, your life is just going to be a testimony. No. And so even if you want it to work and the other person does not, what are you going to do?
Exactly, for sure.
What are you going to do? And so I heard you touched on it, like your divorce experience, what it was like for you to have that dad who is not interested in being a part of the child's life, you going to the extreme and the other person not, meeting you halfway. Like you said, you were trying to keep out of the courts. Girl, court was the most shameful thing for me. Like I felt so, I don't think I've ever felt so humiliated as having to be in a courtroom, trying to get child support from somebody I'm married to, because we were separated too. And I'm like,
Yes.
dude, I am out here struggling to take care of this child. I'm making like $100 a week or whatever, and or no, $100 a month, a month. And this dude is nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Like somebody asked him, "Hey, are you giving her anything for the child?" And he said, "Oh, the courts didn't tell me any. They didn't give me an amount to pay that I should pay."
God.
The court didn't tell. And girl, $100 a month. I had to get 2 credit cards, and I got these like some big credit cards, and I had to max these out like every single month and keep making payments. Like sometimes we wouldn't. You talked about being a single mom. I'm a single mom. Like sometimes, in order to make sure that we have enough food for the week or for a couple days, I like go to Walmart. They have this huge tray of fried chicken and it's like $4. And so I know if I bought that, that would have us or keep us for like 3 days or whatever. So people don't know the struggle that you've been through, especially because you're not vocal, like, oh, he's a low down dirty dog. I ain't gonna do that. He gonna
Yes.
show himself. He's gonna show who he is himself. He's gonna show everybody what kind of person he is by his actions. And so I hear you saying like he was not interested in being a part of this little baby's life. And
Yeah.
I have experienced that. Like I've gone to the extreme. Like I've given my son a phone, like, hey, this is your phone. They can call you anytime. So they don't have to deal with this to say,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't want to call her. I didn't want to call her phone. No, you don't have to call my phone. This is his phone. This is his number. And if it rings once a month, girl, that's a lot. If it rings once a month, that's a lot. But
That's what.
I am so proud of you. Like you have come such a long way with your son. You said your son is 13 and he's doing so well. Tell us about Alex. Tell us about your son.
Oh my God, Alex is amazing. Like so mature, one. And you know what? Like for a lot of his childhood, I'm sad to say, like he was like probably the closest person to me. Like
Adventure buddies.
kind of not what I'm crying, why I'm crying, but he's the one that was drawing some tears, you know,
Yes, I've been there, girl.
when he was younger. And I don't know, I have this very special part in my heart for him just because, you know, of everything that I witnessed him go through and everything that, especially in that early part of his life, that I feel like he missed out on. And I felt responsible because I felt like I was the one who chose his daddy, if that makes sense.
It
And I
does.
chose,
It does.
and I chose wrong.
Mhm. Yep.
So, you know, like the times when I had to watch him sit at the gate and wait because he was told someone was going to come and pick him up who never bothered to show up,
Right.
you know, or when he like went through these phases where he would make up stories about his father
Yeah.
that I would overhear him telling his friends, and I knew that was trauma
Right.
because you're making up a story about a man that isn't really there, you know. Um, and that was hard, but I always knew that if I did my very best, that at someday it might just be enough.
Yes.
And then so I continued to do my very best, continued to parent as best as I could as a single mom. And now at 12 years old, like Alex is just, he is the sweetest, just like super kind to everyone. He's the person that like won't let me walk by homeless people on the street without giving money. He's like, no, you can't step on the, the bug because like you're killing him. Like he's like that guy,
Yeah.
but and he's also that super cool kid that everybody wants to be friends with. But then he's like the sweetest guy to everyone.
Right.
He's like the exact human being that I would have wanted him to be. And he's
Right.
also a budding actor and
Yeah.
doing so well
Woohoo.
and making himself some money.
Wow.
And because he's got a national spot running right now all over Canada. He has a documentary that he's in that's coming out on the History Channel next month.
I love
Like,
it.
my son is a big deal. And I did it with the support of my family and friends
Yeah.
and God,
Yeah.
and he's at this point in his life where not having a father, well, he does have a father, he has my husband, but I mean, like, he doesn't even, like, he's not bothered by the fact that
Yes.
his father isn't around. Like, sometimes I had to be the one to force him to say, hey, do you want to reach out to so
Right.
um do you want to call? And he doesn't
Yeah.
want to. And so I stopped doing that because I feel like he's old enough now to make that decision. I used to do that when he was like 7, 8, 9. No, I don't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The other day he received a message saying, this is 6 months that he hadn't heard anything. 6 whole months. The last time he was messaged was for his birthday in July. And the message says something like, hey, I'm sorry I've been so distant and busy. But I love you and your world or something like that. And Alex was like, okay. Like, sometimes he asks me like, how do I respond to this? Because he doesn't know what to say. Because it's like, this dude, like that's exactly what he says. This is how he refers to this man. And I try to say like, like, don't say that. But he's
Yeah.
like, this dude, is he for real?
This dude.
But yeah, so that's the summary of how Alex is. But he's doing great and I'm super proud of him. And I'm super sad for the person that doesn't get to experience this, because I'm telling you, like, just watching him grow up and flourish into this amazing human being has been one of the most remarkable experiences of my life.
Oh,
and as I said, I just feel sorry for who for those who don't get to experience this. But Alex also has a dad, so he's good.
I don't feel sorry for them. I don't. I'm just being bad. So I did hear you talk about your husband. So tell us, so how did you get the courage to try again? How?
It was after a lot of trial and error. As I said, I went through that crazy year after my ex and I got separated. But after I moved to Canada, like, I don't know, I got this sense that I could, rebuild my life, rebuild myself, like change who I was. Nobody here knew me. Nobody here knew where I had been or what I had experienced. And it almost freed me a little bit, because I wasn't dealing with some of the stuff that I was dealing with back home, but I was still in a very tough situation here. So it wasn't all roses. But I went through this period where I was in this dark hole, where I felt like, what's happening? Like, why am I like in this dark place and I can't seem to get out? It was like after another broken relationship, and I'm like, what's happening? And I just determined at my lowest point, it's either I'm gonna die here or I'm gonna get out of here, and I'm going to never end up here again. Like, I had hit rock bottom before, but this rock bottom experience was one where I was like, I need to take stock of my life in all areas, because I'm never coming back here. Never. And one of those areas was my relationships, because I realized that I had this habit of just like ending up in these broken situations with men who just were not good for me. They weren't bad men, they were just not for me.
Yeah.
And I remember getting to this place where like, I'm going to make a list. I don't know if I heard that somewhere or it just came to me, but I'm like, I'm going to make a list of everything that I want in a person. It wasn't anything superficial. It wasn't he's, tall, dark, and handsome or anything like that. It was like all the values that I needed this person to have, from their spiritual background to even their family relationships. And I'm not knocking anyone who comes from like a broken, home situation, not growing up with two parents or anything like that. But that's all I'd experienced in my relationships. Men that were broken too, and I'm like, you know what? And men who were dealing with father issues too, you know? Sorry, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was dealing with a lot of men who had father issues.
Yeah.
Either they were absent or they just weren't good fathers or they were abusive fathers, or there was this pattern. And I was like, you know what? Whoever I marry, again, needs to be someone that grew up with two parents, loving relationship. And you know what? Like, I just wasn't going to be settling for less than that.
Yeah.
And I had people coming who didn't meet some of the things that were on my list. There were times when I felt like, oh, he's sweet. Maybe I should give him a try because he's a great guy. But then I always came back to this list. Like I was so serious about this list.
Yeah.
Like I always came back to say, one of my core things is missing and it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so that was really kind of it. Also, Iyanla Vanzant, I think. I know people have a lot of different things to say about her, but I feel like when I was in my dark place, hearing her story really helped me. Yeah. I read her book, Peace from Broken Pieces, and that really helped me because some of the loneliness, it helped me to deal with my loneliness, because some of the loneliness that I felt when I was in Jamaica, post-divorce, just hearing her story, someone else who was being real about where they had been and their trauma that they had suffered, kind of made me feel less alone in my situation. For sure. And so that was it. And a couple months later, I met my now husband on Facebook. It was totally random, totally God sent. Like I have no tips on how to meet anybody because it's so random. It was me meeting a guy from Jamaica who also lives in Canada who thought he knew me because we had mutual friends, and I thought I knew him because we had mutual friends. Yeah. We started chatting and realized we didn't know each other, but we liked each other's company. Yeah. And one of the things that I had made as a decision on my list is that I wasn't going to rush in any relationships with anyone. I spent too much time like just jumping into, hey, we're committed, rather than, hey, we're friends, just building a friendship. So that was important to me in this situation. And I told him, hey, I'm not looking for anything. Like, can we be friends? And he was like, of course. Wow. And he was that guy that never pushed me into anything. We were like pen pals because even though I was in Canada as well, I lived in a different city. And we were just like talking on the phone every day as friends, supporting each other, him knowing everything I'm going through, me knowing everything he's going through. And we met 6 months after meeting. So we met in person 6 months after meeting on Facebook. And that was the night I knew. Like I didn't have to be around him long to know that this was the man I was going to marry. Yeah. Just the simple things. Just the very fact that this dude was like opening doors and pulling out chairs and picking up the bill, which for many women probably seems like, oh, well, that's normal. That's what men should do. But I had never experienced it. Right. You know what I mean? So he was just this great guy who wore his heart on his sleeve. And I could just tell he was this genuine person. And I think what sealed the deal for me is when I met his family. Because those in-laws can be tricky. I met his family, man, I just got this vibe from them. Like, they're like so amazing and they haven't changed a a beat since I've met them. Like they were just as sweet and wonderful on day one,
Wow.
and they're even more so today. His brother is my brother. His sister is my sister. His mom is my mom. His dad is my dad.
Wow.
Like they are. I'm gonna cry just talking about them. Oh my God. They're just amazing. And they've welcomed me and they've welcomed Alex. Like these grandparents have done more for Alex than he doesn't even know his other grandparents, his father's parents.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they've supported everything. They were there for everything. They show up for every member of their family. And it's just been amazing. And my husband is just the most wonderful human being. I hope I will someday be like him. Because he's just so patient. He's just so patient and just so loving and so kind and goes above and beyond for everyone and just wants to make sure that we're happy and supported. And that's exactly how his father is. So I can definitely see where he gets it from. But it's just a wonderful life, one that I never for a moment thought that I was going to ever get. And for one that for a long time I felt like I didn't deserve. Because now that I'm looking back, a lot of these relationships that I ended up in that weren't great, where a lot of times I knew that these people weren't people who I wanted to be with. But somehow I felt like I didn't deserve what my friend would call them a high quality man. I think something like that, not high quality, high. There's a term for it. I forget. Oh my God, why can't I remember? But she has this term that she she uses. Like she would say it's a high value man or something like that. And she would always say these value men are like well in demand, and not everyone can get one. And I remember I once dated someone who she would have considered a high value man. And I remember that man made me feel so bad for being divorced. He literally told me, because he was single and had his own business and had like 2 houses. And, I was like a struggling single mom, not even put gas in my car. And we dated for a bit. And I remember one time he said to me, oh, well, I think I was asking him about where's this relationship going? And he was saying something along the lines of like, well, he decides that because I'm the one who's coming with all the baggage. Yeah. So, I think that kind of messed with and this was like post-divorce, like that was during this period as well. So I think that kind of messed me up a little bit, where I felt like, a man who is not divorced, who, doesn't have any kids, I almost felt like someone like that wouldn't want me.
Right.
I think I avoided those relationships, if I'm going to be honest. And I, dated like the guys who already had kids and, brought a lot of the baby mama drama into the relationship. I did that. And my husband was like one of those high value men, like educated, has a good job, sweetest guy from, the good family who has the love house down the street, like he grew up like not how I grew up. You know what I mean? Like in a different class system than I was. So as far as Jamaican, class system goes. So but I never ever felt like he looked down on me for anything that I had experienced. Like I could be honest about everything that I had been through. And I'll share just this little last part because I feel like I've been blabbing a lot. But
no.
I remember when my son asked him to be his father.
Aww.
This was a conversation that me and my son had. He came into my son's life when my son was 5. And one day we were in a parking lot somewhere and he had gone to pay for gas. And my son asked me, 5 years old, Mom, can I ask Steven to be my dad?
Aww.
And I was like, well, one, I was scared because he was just my boyfriend. I was like, is this But we had been together long enough where I felt like, you know what? Go for it, Alex. Ask him. And Steven was so happy to be his dad and has been the greatest dad ever, the dad who coaches his son's basketball,
Oh,
the dad who is there for everything, the dad who gives the best advice, the dad who
wow.
apologizes when he's wrong, the dad
Oh,
like just teaching us all something. And he is, just an amazing father and husband, and
wow.
so supportive.
I love that.
So I'm grateful, and I'd say I'm a great wife too. Like,
You go, girl. You put that thing out there.
because I guess what? I feel like I'd always been this person. I'd always been this giver, just wanting someone that we could grow together.
Yeah.
But what I always had were a lot of takers and
Yeah.
people who we weren't going in the same direction.
Right. Right.
And for once in my life, we are going in the same direction.
Mm.
And we are people who understand that marriage is not just about how I feel today.
Right.
It's not just about the good times. It's about good. We've been in the trenches together. Like,
Oh yeah.
we've been in the bad apartment together, that was falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in we don't have no money. He got
Wow.
injured one time and he was out of work for over a year and we
Yeah.
were struggling. We've
Wow.
been there together. We've also been on the mountaintop together.
That's awesome.
And that has showed me that we can go through anything
I love it.
together. So,
I
yeah.
love it. Yes. Yes. The redemption. I love, 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 love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I am scared to death of even thinking of the prospect of starting over. That's why I'm like, I'll just, be right here and continue to do the work until, whatever happens, happens. But I love your journey. I love that. It's like you've come full circle. You've gone through what you had to go through to get your healing and be at this awesome place. So I am so happy for you. I'm very
Thank
happy
you.
for you.
Thank you.
And thank you again for sharing. Are you crying? Girl,
I'm not. It's like it's when you I don't often think about where I've been like in so much detail. So it's been interesting just like recapping all of that and remembering where I've been and where I am now. And
yeah.
all I can say is, but God, like I've always been who I am right now, just
Yeah.
wanting to do right and have
Mm.
this wonderful life and break some cycles.
Yeah.
And I'm finally there and just wanting this for everybody too.
I
You know
love
what I mean? Like I'm like, I want all my friends to find a relationship like this. I want all of them to, because I just feel like so many times we feel like it's not possible for us, especially when we've had, like certain levels of brokenness and
mhm.
all of that. But it is totally, totally, totally possible.
Thank you so much, man. So Janet and Kamisha, there. So Janet is saying, I am proud of you both, and Kamisha is saying, God is so amazing. Our
Yes, yes.
trajectory is designed by Him, absolutely, and we should just trust His leading and the path that He leads us. Like nobody, look, we said it. Like nobody wants to get married to get divorced, but at the end of the day, you do not have to stay there. You do not have to stay in the trenches. You do not have to stay in that dark place. You do not have to stay broke because you got a job now, girl. You got that job. And
One,
you
two,
mentioned that
I'm doing
money.
what I gotta be doing.
Look at God. You do not have to stay broke, busted, and disgusted. You can move on. You can move forward and you can move on and move into your healing place. So thank y'all for joining. Man, this was a little bit long and we had the technical difficulties, but she gonna get an expensive computer, and we gonna both learn how to do this Facebook thing because we are both learning. Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you, Kamisha. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace. Thank you, B. We'll
Right.
talk. Bye bye.